It was just another Saturday dinner, the kind where teenagers prefer to hide in their rooms while the adults talk. But sometimes, in the midst of boring routines, life decides to surprise you. A doorbell rang by chance, a shy smile, a book under the arm, and suddenly someone's world changes forever. She didn't know she was about to meet someone who years later would continue to illuminate her thoughts like a stubborn star in the sky. Some stories begin like this, without warning, but impossible to forget. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Natalie Pearson had never been one to believe in signs of destiny. She was always practical, with her feet firmly on the ground, until that rainy Saturday night, when the doorbell rang and the Armstrongs arrived for dinner. She was 16, with curly hair that never obeyed any brush, and she was sulking about having to attend a dinner with her father's college friends who had moved to the town. Sitting on the living room sofa, she was idly flipping through a music magazine while listening to the lively voices coming from the kitchen. "Nat, come greet our guests," her mother's voice echoed through the house. Sighing, Natalie put down the magazine and dragged herself to the entrance. That was when she saw him for the first time. A skinny boy with deep brown eyes, dark hair falling over his forehead, a neatly ironed navy blue shirt, and, what caught her attention the most, a thick book under his arm. "This is Natalie," her father, Harold, introduced with that typical paternal pride. "And this is Caleb, Richard, and Diane's son." The boy lifted his eyes from the floor and offered a shy smile that lit up his face in a way that Natalie found curiously interesting. "Nice to meet you," he said in a low voice, adjusting the glasses that were slipping down his nose. During dinner, Natalie observed Caleb discreetly. While the adults discussed the new project at the publishing house where their parents would work together, he remained quiet, responding only when spoken to. There was something intriguing about his silence. It wasn't ordinary shyness, but a kind of concentration, as if he were analysing everything around him. "Why don't you two go to the living room to watch a movie?" suggested Jane, Natalie's mother, while serving more wine to the adults. "The TV is all yours tonight." In the living room, Natalie turned on the TV and sat on the sofa, leaving a considerable space between her and Caleb. "Do you like movies?" she asked, trying to break the uncomfortable silence. "I do," he replied, with that same subtle smile. "But I prefer documentaries, or things about astronomy." She laughed, genuinely surprised. "Really? I've never met anyone our age who liked that." "Yeah," he said, tucking his hair behind his ear, visibly nervous. "My dad says I always have my head in the stars." Something in the way he spoke, a mix of pride and embarrassment, sparked Natalie's curiosity. "And what is in this book?" She pointed to the volume that remained by his side on the couch. His eyes gleamed. "It's about nebulas. Want to see?" That night, while the adults emptied bottles of wine in the dining room, Natalie discovered an entire universe through Caleb's eyes. He showed her photographs of distant galaxies, explained what black holes were, and told stories about ancient constellations. He spoke with a passion that completely transformed the shy boy into someone eloquent and fascinating. "How do you know so much about this?" she asked, genuinely impressed. "My grandfather was an astronomy teacher," Caleb replied, his voice softening. "Before he passed away, he taught me to love the sky. He used to say that looking at the stars is like looking at the past and the future at the same time." It was at that moment that Natalie felt something different. It wasn't a lightning bolt or a dramatic revelation, but a gentle realization that she had found someone who saw beauty where others saw only distant, luminous points. The months that followed transformed the Pearson and Armstrong families into an almost inseparable unit. Sunday dinners, shared holidays, even summer vacations began to be planned together. And amidst adult planning and family decisions, Natalie and Caleb built a friendship that grew like a plant determined to find the light. He was a year younger, but he had an old soul that sometimes made Natalie feel childish. While she spent hours testing different nail polishes and worrying about the next party, Caleb was building homemade telescopes and writing letters to famous scientists with questions about the expansion of the universe. "Someday I'll work at the space agency," he confided on an afternoon when they were studying together in the Pearsons' backyard. "I want to develop technologies for interplanetary exploration." "You talk as if you already have everything planned," said Natalie, chewing on the tip of her pencil while staring at a math equation that refused to make sense. "And you? What do you want to do with your life?" The question caught Natalie off guard. At 17, her future was a confusing blur of possibilities. "I don't know yet," she admitted, suddenly feeling inadequate. "Maybe something with communication, or arts, or—" "You are too intelligent to settle for anything ordinary, Nat," Caleb interrupted, with that seriousness that only he could convey without sounding arrogant. "You just need to find something you love as much as I love the stars." It was at that moment, under the golden light of the late afternoon, that Natalie realized how much she valued every word of encouragement Caleb offered her. She watched him patiently explaining how to solve the equation, his slender fingers moving over the notebook, his eyes alight with that calm intelligence that fascinated her. A strange warmth spread through her chest, a lump formed in her throat, and suddenly she had an almost irresistible urge to hold his hand, just to feel what it would be like. The thought scared her so much that she spilled the lemonade over the notebook. "Sorry," she exclaimed, trying to dry the pages with her sleeve. "It's okay," Caleb laughed, helping her. "Accidents happen when we study advanced math. It's almost a law of physics." As they cleaned up the mess, their fingers briefly touched, and Natalie felt a shiver run down her spine. It was then that she knew, with devastating clarity, that she loved him. Not as a friend, not as the almost brother he had become, but with that kind of love that made her heart race and her hands sweat, and it terrified her. Natalie kept this feeling like a precious and frightening secret. She feared losing the friendship she valued so much, feared rejection, feared change. Moreover, Caleb never showed that he saw her as anything more than his best friend. He shared his dreams, his insecurities, his plans for the future, all with the ease of someone who fully trusts another, without ulterior motives. At 18, the reality of this situation became painfully clear when Caleb showed up at her house on a Thursday afternoon with a different sparkle in his eyes. "Nat, I need your advice," he said, throwing himself onto the purple armchair in her room. "I met a girl at the science club. Her name is Melissa, and I think I'm... you know." Natalie's heart sank like a stone in a lake, but her face maintained an encouraging smile. "You like her? That's great, Cal. What's she like?" "Smart. Very smart," he replied, running his hands through his hair in a nervous gesture that Natalie found adorable. "And she has an amazing smile. We're working together on the science fair project, and yesterday she asked me if I wanted to grab a coffee after class." "And are you going?" asked Natalie, feeling each word scratch her throat. "I don't know. What if it's awkward? What if I don't know what to say?" "You know I'm terrible with these things," he groaned, hiding his face in his hands. That's how Natalie became the love advisor for the guy she loved. With a broken heart, she helped him choose clothes for dates, suggested gifts for Melissa's birthday, and patiently listened when he recounted their conversations. When the relationship ended 3 months later, it was on Natalie's shoulder that Caleb healed. And a part of her, a small and terrible part she hated to admit, felt relief. The years passed like pages of a book flipped by the wind. Natalie discovered her passion for journalism, the ability to tell stories that touched people. She enrolled in the state college, while Caleb, as he had always planned, earned a scholarship to study astrophysics at a prestigious university miles away. The farewell was difficult. On the eve of his departure, sitting on the old swing in the Armstrongs' backyard, Natalie fought against the urge to confess everything. "I'll miss you," she said instead. "I'll miss you too," replied Caleb, rocking gently. "But we'll talk every day." and I'll be back during the holidays. Promise." "I promise by the stars," he said, with that smile that still made her heart skip a beat. "And you know that an astronomer never breaks a stellar promise." Even separated by distance, they remained connected. Nightly calls, daily messages, visits whenever possible. Caleb talked about his research projects. Natalie shared her first reports. But between the words spoken, there were always those that Natalie swallowed. The confessions, the desires, the love that grew silently like a stubborn flower in the concrete. At 24 years old, Natalie had built a stable life. She worked at a local magazine, shared a small apartment with Brianna, her college roommate, and tried, without much success, to move on romantically. There was Michael, the magazine's photographer, whom she dated for 2 months until she realized she couldn't feel even a tenth of what she felt for Caleb. Then came Daniel, kind and attentive, who left her when he realized she would never be completely present. "You need to get over this guy," Brianna said one night, as they shared a pizza and a bottle of cheap wine. "What is it now? 8 years loving someone who sees you as a friend?" 7 years and 4 months, Natalie corrected, taking a generous sip of the wine. "And it's not that simple." "It's never simple," agreed Brianna, sighing. "But you deserve someone who loves you back, Nat." It was on an autumn afternoon, with golden leaves lazily falling along the sidewalks, that Caleb appeared unannounced at Natalie's apartment. He brought with him the scent of cinnamon from the coffee they liked to have together, and an air of anxiety that she recognized immediately. "Cal! What are you doing here?" she exclaimed, hugging him tightly, trying to ignore how her heart raced at the familiar scent. "I came to visit you, of course," he replied, handing her a package of cookies from a bakery they used to frequent in their teenage years. "And I need your help." Sitting in the tiny kitchen of the apartment, Caleb explained that he had met someone, Laura, a colleague from the physics department, and was completely lost. "She is brilliant, Nat. We are working on the same research project and I think I'm in love. But she only sees me as a colleague." The story was all too familiar, and Natalie had to hold back a sad sigh as she poured more coffee. "There is a department party on Friday," he continued, "and I thought, maybe you could come with me." "Me?" Natalie frowned, confused. "Yes. Laura always asks me about you. I think she got curious after seeing that photo of us on my desk. If she sees us together, maybe she'll realize that I'm, someone interesting to date." The request was absurd, painful. And yet, as she always did when it came to Caleb, Natalie agreed. The party was exactly as Natalie had imagined, an apartment filled with scientists discussing theories while drinking cheap beverages. Caleb introduced her to everyone as my best childhood friend, words that were like tiny stabs to her heart. Laura was exactly the kind of girl Natalie had hoped for. Intelligent, with bright eyes and dark hair tied up in a messy bun, the kind of unpretentious beauty that matched perfectly with Caleb. During the evening, following the elaborate plan, Natalie and Caleb acted like the perfect couple. They laughed at inside jokes, finished each other's sentences, and touched casually in ways that suggested intimacy. The lie was so easy it hurt, because for Natalie it wasn't acting. It was on the porch, under the full moon, that she could no longer contain what she felt. They were alone, watching the stars, when Caleb commented, "Look, it's Vega. Remember when I showed you this star for the first time?" "I remember," Natalie smiled, feeling her heart heavy. "You said she was so bright that even if she went out today, we would continue to see her light for years." "Exactly like some people in our lives," he said, looking at her fondly. "Even when they leave, they keep illuminating us." It was too much. The words escaped before she could contain them. "I love you, Caleb." He smiled, unaware of the truth behind that confession. "I love you too, Nat. You are my best friend." "No, you don't understand," she began, but they were interrupted by Laura, who appeared on the porch asking if they wanted more drinks. The moment had passed, and with it, Natalie's courage. After that night, something changed. Natalie began to distance herself quietly. She stopped answering some calls, made up engagements to avoid visits, responded to messages with short and evasive phrases. It was painful, but necessary. She needed to protect her heart. Caleb noticed the change. He tried to reach out numerous times, worried about the sudden distance. He called, visited when he was in town, sent messages asking if he had done something wrong. It was Brianna who finally lost her patience. After seeing Natalie cry for the 1,000th time after ignoring a call from Caleb, she took her friend's phone and called him. "Look, Star Genius," she said when Caleb answered. "You really don't realize what's going on, do you?" "What are you talking about?" he asked, confused. "Natalie has been in love with you since she was 17, you fool. All these years, all those times she helped you with other girls, listened to your problems, stood by your side. She did all that while loving you." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. That can't be true," Caleb finally murmured. "She would tell me. We share everything with each other." "Well, now you know," Brianna concluded. "And if you have any consideration for her feelings, you'll leave her alone to move on." Weeks went by without any news from Caleb. Natalie oscillated between relief and anguish, trying to convince herself that it was better this way. Brianna, feeling guilty for her friend's suffering, decided to take another approach. "I've set up a blind date for you," she announced one Saturday morning. "He's a doctor, handsome and funny, my colleague's brother." "I'm not ready for this," protested Natalie. "You'll never be if you keep dwelling on the past," Brianna insisted. "It's just a dinner, Nat. You deserve it." Reluctantly, Natalie agreed. On the following Thursday, she put on a simple yet elegant blue dress, applied light makeup, and headed to the agreed-upon restaurant, a cosy place in the city centre with soft lights and ambient music. The maitre d' led her to a table in the back, where her date should already be waiting. As she approached, her heart stopped. Sitting at the table, with a bouquet of yellow tulips, her favourites, was Caleb. "I bet you didn't expect to see me here, did you?" he said with a nervous smile. "Caleb? What? How?" stammered Natalie, frozen in place. "Your friend Brianna is quite persuasive," he explained, standing up. "She called me last week saying she made a mistake by driving me away from you, that I should fight for what I want." "And what do you want?" asked Natalie, suddenly feeling vulnerable. "You," he replied simply. "It has always been you, Nat. I was just too blind to see it." He gestured for her to sit down, and Natalie complied, still dazed. "After Brianna told me about your feelings, I was in shock. Not because the idea displeased me, but because suddenly everything made sense. Why I could never maintain a serious relationship with anyone. Why I always compared every girl to you. Why I felt incomplete when we were apart." He reached across the table, gently touching her fingers. "I love you, Natalie. I think I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to recognize it. You are my best friend, my confidant, the person who knows me better than anyone in the world. And if you still feel the same..." With tears in her eyes, Natalie placed her hand on his. "I love you too, Caleb. I always have." Months later, sitting once again on the old swing in the Armstrongs' backyard, the two watched the stars. Natalie, with her head resting on his shoulder, thought about everything they had been through. "We spend so much time chasing after what we think we want, and sometimes what really matters has always been right there in front of us," she said. Caleb smiled, squeezing her hand where a delicate engagement ring with a small star-shaped gem sparkled under the moonlight. "Do you know what my grandfather used to say about the stars?" he asked, gently kissing her forehead. "That even though they are separated by unimaginable distances, they dance together, creating constellations that tell eternal stories." "Like us," whispered Natalie. Exactly like us, Caleb agreed. And Natalie understood, once and for all. Some stars only shine when we learn to look with an open heart. Time may take a while, but it's never too late to say what we feel. It's never too late to choose love, even after years of silence. And perhaps that is the most valuable lesson life can teach us. True love always finds its way to the light. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.